Hello there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 8. So this is our last Viva of this term for the devised project of Grenfell. And so I'm going to get started here. So everything's going to be linked up differently, but that's because it's our last Viva, so I might as well put a bit extra than I normally do. So anyway, question 1. What research have I undertaken independently over this week? I've researched Alfie Boe, Art Garfunkel, Elvis Presley, and Theresa May. So, how have I applied them? So, I applied my research on Theresa May after doing her monologue during the performance, which was on Thursday, the 15th of March. And yeah, so which was an interview that she had on BBC Newsnight, and it was pretty much she was being interviewed after the riots had been going on around Grenfell when she was present, and so she went off to interview for Newsnight in a different location. The reason I was going over Alfie Boe and Art Garfunkel and Elvis Presley was because I was planning to sing Bridge Over Troubled Water, which was originally done by Simon and Garfunkel, and the person who actually sang it in the whole group was Art Garfunkel, so he did like the solo part. And and then Elvis Presley and Alfie Boe, they were one of the many, many people who covered Bridge Over Troubled Water after Simon and Garfunkel. And the two of those are two of my favourite covers of Bridge Over Troubled Water. But what I wanted to do was Bridge Over Troubled Water as a tribute to the Grenfell victims, because, you know, there was a special tribute song to Bridge Over Troubled to the Grenfell victims. And so what I did was, from that point, I just thought I didn't really like much of the of that version, so I just because I felt it was just too poppy, and some of the choice of artists weren't particularly my choice, and I don't think it really symbolised the tragedy as much as I thought it would, and I think the music just didn't capture like how we should feel for Grenfell in general. So So what I wanted to do was I wanted to like listen to how Art Garfunkel did the song, then maybe like pick out like the backing track from how Simon and Garfunkel did it, and then maybe use like Elvis Presley and Alfie Boe and use like their tenor baritone vocal styles that they used for their own version, and then just like give it my own spin instead of doing the actual do in Art Garfunkel's way, because I didn't want to do that because I don't sound that good, and no one can beat Art Garfunkel the way he did it, so I didn't want to do it like that. So, but yeah, unfortunately, sadly, we couldn't do it because Gavin didn't want to do it as a backing track. He wanted to have a pianist do it, and we did find some pianists, but they couldn't find the time to commit to playing the song, practicing it, going over it, learning it, that kind. And I did ask them at quite a last minute time, so it was a bit bad for them, so I didn't think they could do it. But despite that, I did do some research, and I wanted to try and create my own spin to it, which hopefully I will be able to do soon enough for another project, but unfortunately not for this one. So sorry. What practical problems did I come across this week? Well, the main ones that we came across was, of course, the tech rehearsal, and then, of course, the performance day. The practical problems that I particularly faced, I felt really overwhelmed for the whole week, because, you know, when you're really trying to intensify yourself, trying to really get yourself familiar with the whole thing and not make so many mistakes, because you don't want to make a mistake when it's show week. And if you're working really solidly, it can get really tiresome. And sometimes when you're trying to take instructions from people like Gavin or from other members of staff who are trying to get everything flowing in a real structured way, sometimes it's harder for some of us to actually keep focused, because so much is going through your head. You might have had a really long night thinking about it. You might have had difficulty sleeping because of nerves. So yeah, that was one of the main things I struggled with. Also, one of the other things I struggled with was taking instructions from all different sizes. So taking instructions from students, taking instructions from staff. And yeah, I felt that I was given too much advice all in my face all at once, which I particularly suffered with when we were going over the police tape section. And I only got added in because, everything was changed. The set was changed slightly with my Theresa May monologue coming in at a different point. And of course, they wanted to help me participate in the police tape. So, and I wasn't as familiar with it as I used to be because I wasn't doing it in a while. So yeah. And yeah, I just found it really hard just taking in all the advice from one side to the other, and I felt really intense, so I had to let out some aggression out at some of the staff and some of the students, which I know I needed to try not to do. So, but I knew that people were just trying to do their very best to help me out and trying to help me overcome the whole stress of what show week is like and what intense rehearsals can be like and how much it can really kind of pull in your favour. So one of the things I need to learn is not to snap back at people, not to get really quite irritable at them. And if they get irritable, just kind of understand why, but don't get straight back at them. So yeah, and also try to be as patient, even though it's easier said than done. Just don't show any aggression with people, especially if they're just trying to do the very best to help you out. Just don't get aggressive and just keep at a calm level. It's harder to do when you're in a show week, but it's one that I think a lot of us do struggle with. What practitioners have I come across this week? Pretty much, I didn't have much time to do that. We didn't really go over any practitioners over this week because, of course, we had a lot to do for show week, so we had to work a lot with rehearsals, tiresome rehearsals. Then, of course, the performance on Thursday, which was the 15th, and then on Friday, on the 16th, we went to Move It, which is like a dance event in XL London, which we went to as a college trip. For like a reward, or just to look over other future colleges that we could go to, watch other colleges perform their dance pieces, so that we've got an idea of what we could maybe do in the future after our Nescott years, if some of us don't want to go on H&D or so on and so forth. Have I created anything new, and what was the outcome of the creation? So, well, pretty much we were polishing every scene throughout the week. We made like a running order, and we completed our set designs, which we had to complete on the 15th of March, which was our deadline date. With my set design, I felt that it really went well. I got through, I managed my time well, used most of my time, especially close to the deadline, tried to spend as much time just to complete it, make sure everything was done so I didn't have too much trailing on me throughout rehearsal week. What could I have done differently with my tower? Because what I did was with Grenfell, with the Grenfell Tower, what I did was with the set design I had to create the actual Grenfell Tower, and maybe put my own spin to what I could remember looking at from the images that I saw on Google and on the news, and yeah, just kind of go over like how it looked after the fire, and then kind of present it out. Then yeah, so what could I have actually done differently? I think for me, the main thing that I would want to kind of change with my design, pretty much one thing that would really help would probably be try and maybe get a bit more 3D, out of the whole tower, because I think it's quite basic. There's not a lot of originality. It's really basic. So you've got the simple paints. You've got primary colours. You've got secondary colours on it, and of course I've cut out windows, which I measured out really consciously by using my measurements, and yeah. And then of course trying to make sure that with the torch shining, so that you could try and make a bit of a flash on it, so that it can really look quite devastating to see from a shadow point of view. But what I really would like is maybe it to be a bit more 3D. So not in terms of like the shadow, but maybe a bit more 3D to see just from looking at it. So maybe get a bit more squiggles that could maybe be symbolising the smoke that's still coming out after the whole event. So maybe I'm not really sure, but maybe just start to use a bit more paper, or maybe just try and use a bit of steam to come out of it. So, like for example, when we use the steam as like fake smoke in the whole performance, what I would really like to do is maybe get the steam coming out of the actual Grenfell. So if you look at it as I've got it glued into a circle, maybe put a hole inside of it, and then get the smoke cleaning out of it. So I could turn on something and the steam could come out, so it looks like it's actually burning. So you could see all the smoke that's still coming out, even though the fire's cleared, there's still smoke that's beaming out of it. So that's something I would really want to do differently if I had the money for it and if we had the budget. What skills do I need for tech rehearsal? So the main ones: patience. Patience is important, mainly because you want to make sure that you're calm, and that you're not like being snappy at people, like at the director or at your fellow performers. You don't want to go snappy at everyone, even though everyone has those moments where they just have to let out the stress at others. The most important thing is just be patient. Be patient with people. Don't get so harsh at people, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help everyone else. Everyone gets annoyed. Everyone gets irritated, and then they'll just throw their anger straight back at you, and it's not pleasant. That's for definite. Be professional. Be professional with everyone. So support everyone, even though there might be those who still look unprepared, who haven't put enough time or effort into their work, into their practical work. You've just got to try and help them. It's tough, I know, but sometimes you just got to help people. Even with those who are already very prepared, who know what they're doing, there's always those little things that everyone wants to see get better. And sometimes you just got to be professional and treat people with a bit more patience, and treat them with a good professional attitude by helping them to improve their performance, and just pick out some areas where they could do better at. Because, we all want to improve. We all need to find ways of improving, and just take advice from everyone that we work with. So just be professional in that sense. and focus down. It's so hard to keep focused, especially when you're working for long hours, end on end. It can be really tiresome, especially in a tech rehearsal, especially when everyone is trying to help the lighting and the sound and the people who are working on the backside and making sure everything's fine. So pretty much with the technical side, everyone's focusing on them. They do rely on the performers to be there on the night, on the tech run. But as they say, all the technical people, they get the priority. They need to know what they're doing. And sometimes, you have to stay in one position for so long. You have to hold your position. It can take ages to do so, but you've got to focus down. Just keep going with what you're doing. Don't stop what you're doing. Just keep going with where you are. Yeah. How did the performance go? Well, for me, I thought it went really, really well. The audience felt like they really enjoyed it after getting feedback from them afterwards. And yeah, I think it was one of those performances where you were doing a lot and you tried to put as much energy into it, and you made a lot of effort into it, and sometimes you might have just walked out and thought, did everyone really enjoy it? Did everyone actually enjoy it? And sometimes you felt that feel, did I do that well? And, I noticed I did make a few blips overall, but, everyone does. You're not going to get a perfect performance. We all make mistakes. We're all going to make a mistake on a performance night. Rehearsals, you'll make a mistake. It's obvious you'll make a mistake. Everyone will take that on board. But even in performances, things will go wrong. People will forget a line. People will make a little hesitation. People will forget where their movement is. People will probably rush through it, not keep in line, keep in sync, keep working as an ensemble. That will happen. There's every doubt it will happen wherever it is. But as long as you keep engaged with an audience, there's nothing better to ask for. And as long as you keep focused, keep going, you don't get distracted by anyone else, and you just focus on yourself, there's nothing better to do than that. And from an audience perspective, I was really, I felt that I got through the process, but I knew that I felt really nervous beforehand. As you could imagine, it was a really nervy week, and I felt, it was so long. The rehearsals were long. It was a long week for me. But what I do know, overall, I need to improve my pace. So I need to improve the pace of my movement, especially on the Conquest of Spaces sequence that we did. When we were going 1, 2, 3, 4, up and down, and yeah. I knew that I was rushing ahead of everyone else, and I wasn't clumped. I was really out. I was, as you could probably say, I kind of rushed ahead of everyone and didn't clump in with everyone else. So what I really should have done, if I could say, is try to think about where you are. Don't hesitate not to look around. Just very quickly go, oh, it happens, but but what I need to make sure is think about not rushing it. Don't go ahead. As much as you might look confident, you've got to be aware that this is not your show. This is everyone's show, and you need to make sure that you're in sync with everyone else. It's a bit like with harmonies. It's a bit like with, making sure that you are learning your lines as much as everyone else. It's the same exact thing. Just don't go on and just go ahead of everyone else and try and dominate people. Just keep in sync. which is one thing that I need to work on. And yeah, that's me done for today. Thank you very much for watching. This is Alexander Hall, Viva Voce, for week 8. Thank you very much, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.